This is the Flex Network. Flex on everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network. I'm your host, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. I'm joined, of course, by Brandon Adam. You can follow him on Twitter at Brandon D Adam 19. And then finally, our boy, Mike Dickinson. Follow him on Twitter at Mike_Dickinson. Wow. We made it. Happy 2022, guys. We did it. We did it.
Just put another notch in the belt, another year down for sure.
That's right.
The last 2 years been wild. So let's,
oh my goodness.
It's just each day is crazier.
It's absolutely crazy. And I will admit that I got absolutely bandoozled last week. I don't know what the right word is, by the whole COVID outages and injuries and all that fun stuff. So for those of you who made it to your championship this week, it's it, man. Immortality is in your grasp. Because remember, banners do fly for life, people. You get that championship.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, boys, are you guys in any championship games?
Yeah, I'm in 4.
Ooh, okay.
So
than me.
Yeah, so I got 4. But I lost Gibson in 2 of them, so COVID struck again on me a little bit, which is too bad. But
did you really trust playing him? Like, he's so
100%.
Okay,
100%. That guy was not coming out of my lineup, period. He is the RB10 right now as we speak. So he was another good outing. I think he would have climbed up to 8. Something like we were talking about last week. I think he could have been climbed up to 7, but Uncle COVID ruined it and ruined my championship. So, but, that's why we got to – hopefully my Tyreek Hill stacks pay off.
I actually saw through FOIA that you filed formal documents in the state of Colorado to adopt Antonio Gibson. Can you confirm or deny this?
I will confirm that. I actually confirmed that he is my guy, and to death, man. That's it. Like, he's my guy. I like him a lot. But happy New Year to everybody, Bali. Yeah,
welcome. What the hell? Pretty wild. Well, for us, for Brandon and I, it's 8:30. For Mike, it's 10:30. He's recording out east, so we're a little bit slow today. I definitely stayed up way past my bedtime yesterday, but man, we're here for the people. We're here for the people. Yeah. So I will ask you a question though. If you happen to have Jarrett Patterson, are you starting him this week? In place, going up against the Eagles, I believe, right?
Okay, so I have this exact issue. So I got Jarrett Patterson, I got Dare, Kareem Hunt, and I think I'm rolling Dare. I'm not gonna go Jarrett Patterson. I think I'm gonna roll Dare and hope he somehow falls in the end zone once, and somehow they get on the 1 yard line. He can get a goal line score, because I don't see Jarrett Patterson doing it. Like, I don't see. I see Washington getting shut down big time by Philly, and they're just going to run out the clock. I see the game script going away from Jarrett Patterson in a big way.
Oh my God, Dare Gumbawale, like, what have we become? And here's the thing.
This is it.
For you to be playing Dare Gumbawale of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against one of the most stout run defenses in the game against the Patriots. I know. That's how you beat the Patriots is on the ground, but my goodness. But hey, look, we're actually not here to talk about the day-to-day matchups.
Nope.
Look, if you made it this far, if you want some starts to device, we're going to give it to you. But we wanted to reflect a little bit on 2021. Sure. Maybe, we probably won't get to it today, but maybe look a little bit forward to 2022, because pretty much like this week, after I got eliminated in my last 2 matchups, I'm like, all right, on to 2022, baby. And that's when I started like hammering in and doing some rookie research. But let's put a pause on that. Let's talk about 2021. So, Mike, I'm going to give this one to you first.
Okay.
When I ask you, why was 2021 absurd? I want you to answer me truthfully, just from the bottom of your heart. Why did you feel that the fantasy football season was even more absurd? Because we had COVID last year, but why was it so absurd this year?
I think it was so absurd this year because it seemed that by and large, when you went to bed on Saturday night this year, you did not know who was going to be in your starting lineup when you woke up on Sunday. It seemed like last year that the teams had a better feel for it, a better grip on it. They were kind of like isolating their people, but with the NFL relaxing a little bit, I think that was more the uncertainty of it is, and then stacked on top of that is the fact that, handcuffs we thought were going to be handcuffs maybe weren't. Guys that we didn't think were going to actually be handcuffs ended up being a thing. So like there was, with the uncertainty of COVID and then the uncertainty of the rosters on top of that, and then you get some morons thrown into the mix like Urban Meyer and Matt Nagy who just gum it all up. Like it was just it was a comedy of errors. It was a conflation of circumstances, and it was just a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Brandon, what do you got?
Dude, just injuries in general. Like it just seemed like early season injuries. That first, it seems like every week we had major people go down for good chunks of the season. And I felt like I on certain squads, I got hit real hard with injuries and went real deep into rosters because I'm a dynasty guy. I was able to do that. I was able to suck up some injuries, but man, like it just seemed like maybe it was just because of COVID on top of it, but like just injuries seemed like it was piling on and they were like season enders every single time. And it was just, not fantastic for my J.K. Dobbins and
J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne,
dude,
Cam Akers, like it
Cam Akers,
and then just like, and then even guys who made it to the draft, like Christian McCaffrey,
McCaffrey,
King Henry, like so many guys that just got injured, and we're gonna go through that today. We're not gonna go like round by round, but I want to look at some of like the rounds a little bit later today. I want to talk reflect a little bit on our rookie wide receivers today. And then I also want to discuss at a high level, just some of the rules that you like this year that maybe you would suggest for next year, and just general takeaways for 2021. So I'm going to get started here because this is what interests me the most, right? I mean, as much as we play season long, I would call us dynasty degenerates, right? Like that's who we are. Yeah. That's in our blood. It's what we become, right? And so even though admittedly, I think I have way too much love for rookies. This is my favorite time of year, right? The new crop coming in. But let's reflect back specifically on the wide receivers to start. And I think what was interesting is that when you look back, there's really, I would say, comfortably maybe 5 wide receivers that you were like comfortable starting in your lineup in any given week. Obviously, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, both those guys blew it out the water, right? Like Jamar Chase, we wanted to quote temper our expectations after Justin Jefferson had an amazing season last year. Guess what? Yeah, Jamar Chase is who we thought he was, right?
Can't stop history. Yeah,
exactly.
The guy's a stud.
I mean, he finished, or at the time when I was looking at these numbers, he finished as like the PPR wide receiver 11 on the season, which is pretty damn respectable, right? In terms of points per game. I'm looking at points per game. Yeah. Now Jalen Waddle, he finished as wide receiver 13. He had 20, or he had about 16 points per game. So actually very similar to Jamar Chase. So both those guys, every single week, you're comfortable putting them in your lineup. And then it gets a little bit more thin, right? Elijah Moore, we certainly had our moments with Elijah Moore. Started out slow. He absolutely blew up through the middle of the season and then got injured, right? It is what it is. He actually, I think he's ruled out this week, but he had a chance to play.
He had a chance to play. I was hoping he would come back and save my championship. I was hoping to slide him in there. And but yeah, he's he was definitely a late comer, but I mean, man, that section he was hot for. He was like wide receiver 5, he was every week a wide receiver like 5. It was crazy.
But Devonta Smith finishes or is at the wide receiver 38, which is he's basically a flex. But this was not a guy that you were comfortable starting any week. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, last obviously 4 or 5 weeks, been talking about it on the shows every week. Even without Jared Goff, he gets peppered with targets. So I say put some respect on his name. However, no DeAndre Swift. They didn't really have much target competition. I mean, you could argue the same thing for Jalen Waddle. So as we kind of get more and more into the I call it best ball season, and as we're starting to parse out these rankings, I'm going to look to you guys to say, okay, am I way too high on these guys, or are they going to take the next step forward? Because for all the rest of the rookies, I can't take credit for it, but JJ Zacharyson, he's a guy who I've listened to, I respect. He's one of my favorite podcasts, and he does studies in the offseason. And essentially what he looked at is, okay, if a wide receiver essentially falls flat on their face in year 1, what are the chances they're actually going to be legitimate in the league? And unfortunately, it's actually quite low. If you didn't perform as a rookie, that you're not going to perform as in your career. And so the guys that I have the biggest questions, Mark, and Brandon, I'm looking straight at you. What is your thought on the breakout possibility of our boy Rondale Moore?
Yeah, I think he like we've been saying all season, I think his route tree is much more than he's been given in this year by this coaching staff.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't, and he's 21. Like, he's barely 21. Like, was he 21 in 3 months or something like that?
21 and a half.
21 and a half. So the guy's super young, super dominant in college when he played. And he did look early in the season, have some big splash plays early in the season. And then I don't know what happened. When D-Hop went down, this whole offense kind of, I don't know. It's kind of been sputtering. And I don't know what to do with projection. Like, how much of a fault is it on Rondell? Or how much is it the coaching staff? How much is it Kyler? How much is it on them just failing to adjust down the stretch without Hopkins? And also, Rondell was nicked up for an ankle, but no excuses with him. He has the talent. Like, it's on him. Like, it really is on him. And I hope next year that they finally unleash him deeper down the field instead of, like, his ADOT has to be like, so probably one of the bottom of all the rookies here.
There's weeks where his ADOT is negative.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's
like,
behind the line
it's
of
literally
scrimmage.
like Cliff said, okay, we're going to give you these plays, these types of plays, and those are the only ones we're going to give you. But even when we give you a volume spike, those are the only plays we're going to give you. And it's just like, to me, it's like, why are you doing this to this kid when he can go downfield for you and go get the ball? And I don't know. We'll see. But I like him a lot. I'm still buying. I still like him. I still want to hold him. But he definitely fell flat on his face the last 6 weeks. Like, I don't know what the deal was. Like, early in the season, he looked hot. He looked good. And things were looking good. But, that's us dynasty players. Like, we expect so much right away. And we just expect it. And it's what it is. But his target share just wasn't enough to be
sustainable. What about, Mike? This one's for you. So, two guys that I think a lot of fantasy gamers had high on their boards: Rashad Bateman and of course Terence Marshall. Right? Rashad Bateman showed moments. Right? He showed glimpses. He was injured for a good part of the season, and when he played, he actually got a decent market share. Unfortunately, didn't really have enough time to play with Lamar because Lamar hasn't really played a lot in the last month of the season. So for him, I'm kind of giving him a bit of a pass. But a guy that really does frighten me in terms of his future usage, this has got N'Keal Harry vibes written all over it. Is Terence Marshall.
Here we go.
So of course, DJ Moore's on that team. Christian McCaffrey, when he's healthy, is on that team, and they signed Robbie Anderson to a longer term deal. So the thought is that Robbie Anderson's there for a year. In's going to come Terence Marshall, and boom, we're happy, right? DJ Moore, Terence Marshall, we're going to just carve up defenses. Right. Didn't happen. He was a healthy scratch in a lot of these games. Mike, are we out on Terence Marshall?
I am not out on Terence Marshall. I think that when you look at a lot of the metrics that you look at when you look at whether or not somebody's going to perform take the leap from college into the NFL, you look at their breakout age, you look at their college dominator ranking, you look at their target share. His college target share was lower than what you would like just because of who he played with. I mean, he played with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase. So I mean, there were folks that said of the three, he was the best receiver. Now he had the ankle injury that dinged him up, also that drove his target share down a little bit, but he broke out in his age 19 season. So I mean, that's a top 15 percentile breakout age. So that's what you like to see. These guys that kind of come together, that put it all together early. He had a pretty decent, he had a top 40% college dominator ranking. So I think that the skill set is there. I think that, and when I'm looking at these guys, when I'm trying to project, when you're looking into your crystal ball, your magic 8 ball, trying to project what's going to happen in the future, I think you look at how these circumstances that came together this season are replicatable next season. So when I look at Baltimore, the Rashad Bateman thing versus the Terence Marshall thing. So Baltimore is always going to be a low volume passing offense. They love Mark Andrews. He's not going anywhere. They love Hollywood Brown. He's not going anywhere. Lamar's going to run, and they're always going to push to get over 100 rushing yards a season. So by virtue of that fact, Bateman, while he could be the top receiver in the class, is probably never going to be more than a low end 2 flex play for you just because of the volume that he's going to see. Now, we saw flashes of it when Sammy Watkins went out, and I don't know why they would retain Sammy Watkins on the roster, but they probably will because Harbaugh thinks Harbaugh's smarter than everybody else. So I think that caps his upside. When you look at the situation in Carolina, Robbie Anderson is signed to a longer-term deal. I haven't looked at what the contract situation looks like, but my guess is they can probably get out of it in a year or two. The quarterback situation there is what killed you, though. I think they thought Sam Darnold was going to be something that he's not. He's a jag. He's a backup. He is backup. They're currently paying Teddy Bridgewater not to be on the roster, Cam Newton to be whatever the hell he is, and then Sam Darnold to be the big-headed buffoon that we all thought he was. So they need to fix that quarterback situation. I'm kind of shocked that they let Brady walk.
That was weird. Yeah, that was definitely a finger point right there, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think when you look at everything, you look at how situations could come together better next year. I don't think McCaffrey's ever going to stay healthy. I think we need to divorce ourselves from that fact. What?
I think your play is you think Watson's going to be a Carolina Panther. I think that's what your play is.
He could
you think Terrace.
I think the 30,000 foot view is that they're going to fix the quarterback situation because they have to, because they have a high powered, rich, involved owner who says, all right, you clowns got your shot to do it. And you know what? You fucked it up beyond all belief. So now, you know what? Now we're going to do it my way. And this is how we're going to do it. Either
I'm telling you,
move up in the draft and grab somebody or get aggressive with Watson. That quarterback situation will be better next year. They put the draft capital into Terence Marshall. And I think they understand that in order for that run game to go, they can't have McCaffrey touch the ball 28 to 35 times a game. So they're going to get somebody else in there who can split with him, who, he'll probably be in a 75-25 workload. But then I think they're also gonna look to pass more. That's how I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, one can only hope, man. I agree with you about Christian McCaffrey. Our boy Flex Matt was trying to pawn him off on me, thinking like he was the Christian McCaffrey of old and asking for pretty much a king's ransom. And I'm like, why would I do this? It makes zero sense for my team.
It's tough, dude. I tried to sell him too, and I couldn't find a deal because it was just
as a fancy as a manager, like you want to get value for CMC, but you just
I was willing to take 10% off. Like I was willing to give you something,
50% off, man.
You gotta take your pants off. You gotta take 10%.
Yeah,
off.
for sure. But like I don't know, that's something that we're gonna have to monitor over the summer. What's Christian McCaffrey's ADP gonna settle in at? Because there's a lot of scared people from him, and I think he could be a drop. He could be down in the bottom half of the first. Like people, by the time next summer rolls around, I think people are going to be too nervous about him.
He'll be a mid-second by next summer.
Do you think so?
Absolutely, yeah.
In mid-second, he's a smash in the mid-second. Like,
I agree with you, but I think that's where he's going to go. There'll be teams that have him as their RB2.
Wow, that's a bold. Put that on tape because that might be true. Like that might be true.
It will be true. But here's the thing: when Christian McCaffrey did play, and he did play a few games, he ranked as the 5th overall running back in terms of points per game with 18.2 PPR points. Exactly. So that was just behind Derrick Henry, JT, Austin Eckler, and our boy Leonard Fournette. So I mean, when he's on the field, he's producing, right? His problem is he's not on the field.
He's elite.
He's elite. Okay, let's help our boy Ball out here real quick. Okay, he says he has Murray. I'm assuming that's Kyler Murray.
Oh, here we go.
Nervous as hell. You should be nervous. All right, so who's Arizona even playing? They're playing
Lance.
Am I crazy to consider one of these guys? Huntley, Baltimore's going up against the Rams. That's a tough matchup. Lance, San Francisco's going up against Houston. That's tempting, but it's going to be 100% rush yards, right? That you're banking on there. Hill, nah. Big Ben, nah. And Jones.
Dude, the only one I would throw it at maybe is Lance, just because I think he can get his floor is 20 points, most likely. But his blow up game could be like 35 if he throws maybe a couple touchdowns, But I think because I think he will rush for one. He will rush for one. Like
the key would be to get.
And he's going to probably get 60 yards.
Yeah, well, get it into Debo's hands or Brandon Ayuk's hands. Let them do the work, right? That could be that's the play. I mean, it's what Jimmy Garoppolo has been doing all season.
I understand, but you're talking about Trey Lance here. You're talking about like this guy is.
Listen,
I'm excited about this guy. I'm so excited about this game. Like I'm not playing him anywhere or anything like that. But man, I'm excited about him. Like this is gonna be.
so you're telling me you're playing Trey Lance, the rookie, who hasn't played all season. He's been.
I know. I'm talking Kyler. I'm not going to sit Kyler. I'm not sitting
Murray.
Kyler. No.
Honestly, balling.
No, I'm not sitting Kyler.
If you go out and Kyler loses, here's the thing: Kyler could put up 40 points. Like
exactly.
That's on his range of outcomes. I suppose Trey Lance good because we just saw Tyler Huntley do it 2 weeks ago where he put up 35. So it's it's in maybe in Trey Lance's range of outcomes. It's the reason we were so high on him in general. But
yeah,
my thought is Kyler Murray kinda got you here, right? So you gotta. I think you roll with Kyler. That's me. I mean, it's your fantasy team. If you want to risk Lance, that would be my second choice. I'm not playing Tannehill. You mentioned Tannehill after. It's to me, it's either Kyler Murray or Lance. I'm still leaning Kyler. Mike, who are you leaning?
So I was going to talk about this. This is a process over results. This is a process over results question. So like you look at what got you here. You look at the volatility. You look at what you need. As you go through, none of these guys are overly appealing. I mean, Big Ben is not going to get much. It's his last home game ever, but it's not going to. Yeah, they're not going to do much.
I think they win it, but
I think they win it too. The Patriots, they're going to run 444 times a game. The Pete Carroll wet dream. So Mac Jones sits. Trey Lance is still largely undeveloped as a thrower of the football. So if he gets you 60 and a touchdown on the ground, that's still only 12 points. So I think Kyler's we've seen his floor drop a little bit, but I think Arizona still needs to win. They are losing. I don't think they're going to fall out of the playoffs, but they need to win. They need to put the pedal to the metal. And quite honestly,
they have to.
I think that they need to prove that they're actually legit because right now it looks like they ain't legit. So I'm still.
Dude, I'm telling you, something's up with this team. It's 2 years in a row that they've done this. Like that means leadership to me. Like it doesn't mean Kyler's been a winner like his whole life.
Yeah,
like,
but I mean,
now he's suddenly not coming through at the end of the season. It's like
he's rolling into the stadium in his Oakland A's jersey. I mean, come on, what is that?
I know he's a little he's a kid. He's a kid. But like I'm just telling you, like it's the energy that he has that unrelenting confidence. Like Kyler has that. And I think he's frustrated by the staff. Like I really do. I think he's frustrated. He doesn't want to say anything. I think they're growing as a team because they are a young team. And I think they're growing. These are hard things to go through, man. And I think
it's too bad though. They were poised. They looked
man
legit. Their defense was legit. You could not stop Kyler. I mean, honestly, since they lost Hop, like the offense just hasn't looked the same, and that makes sense. But is Hopkins able to come back, or is he out for the season?
Playoffs. He can come back in the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right.
That defense losing JJ Watt really hurt.
That's what it was. Yeah, that was a big deal.
You know yeah. That's true.
Leadership.
That's
and that comes down to leadership, what we just talked about. That means they don't believe in theirs.
Who are you benching, guys? Rashad Penny, who, my God, he just looks unbelievable. DeAndre Swift, who's coming back after missing since Thanksgiving, or Elijah Mitchell, who hasn't been really healthy, but he's healthy this week. This one's tough, man. I'm playing Penny. I'm playing Swift, I think.
Yes, there it is.
That's the answer, right?
Yeah.
That's the answer. My God, that's how far we've come. How far we've come. Okay, so I didn't really answer this question. I kind of dodged it, but what to me made 2021 absurd was just the fact that we had so many older names coming into the league and making a difference. I mean, most notably, obviously, James Conner, Cordero Patterson.
There it is.
Sony Michel came in. Rashad Penny is apparently resurging his career, which good for him, man. Deonta Foreman has shown glimpses. Devonta Freeman has shown glimpses. Like these are all names, and it's like, oh my God. AJ Green, he had his moments, but I'd say he's washed, right?
Dude, he's washed. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's
Antonio Brown when he's actually played, and he's been vaccinated. Like AB, it's just been Leonard Fournette. Like he's the RB4 on the season. It's pretty insane. So I'd say in general, like it's been so absurd because how could you have possibly known that all these names are going to pop out? So, okay. I have a couple questions before we get into just really parsing on a high level.
A quick comment on that. So if you look at this, a lot of the young guys that are coming into the league, don't know and haven't had the value and the experience in OTAs and mini camps of getting hit and figuring out how to manage their bodies through the course of the season. So those guys that you're seeing the resurgence on, they kind of are straddling the line, and kind of like we are generationally. Like we grew up without the internet, but now we're on the internet every single day of our lives. Our kids know no world without the internet. So like we're like the Leonard Fournette ABs, and our kids are like the Kyler Murrays and Rondale Moores. We're like, they only know this world where there's no contact in OTAs, there's no contact in mini camps, training camp is soft. These other guys had the 2-a-days where you're hitting in pads twice a day. So they know how to manage their bodies a little bit better. And I think that's kind of what it is. Now, as these guys age out of the league, you'll see that start to wane. But I think that's part of it.
That's a really good observation. I mean, so you guys both have Sirius. I listened to the Moving to Change show. That's one of my favorite shows on NFL radio. And just like understanding like Pat Kerwin as a GM and just his history on the league, he has such a good perspective on just how the league is changing. And to your point, Mike, we're seeing it live in action, where a lot of these guys, and you know what, I think that just makes what some of these young rookies are doing, like what Jamar Chase has done, dude, so much more impressive. It's just insane to me. And you know what, like it was one of the narratives of the season where it was the college quarterback getting their college wide receivers. And we, for the most part, we've seen it. Like Jalen Waddle and Tua, they've shown the connection. Burrow last week was more of a T. Higgins day, but obviously, like we've seen it all season with. Oh fuck! Can we just talk about T. Higgins for a second?
Yeah, come on, man, dude. That was a win for us. T. Higgins was a win for us, man.
T. Higgins is a guy
like we all love T. Higgins.
Where would you rank him? Like, where do you think T is going to go next year? Like, is it going to be similar to this year with like Amari and CeeDee Lamb, where it's like kind of like round 2, round 3? Is that going to be T and Chase?
I think that's exactly what and I think it'll be T going second.
No, for sure. I mean, 12 receptions, 194 yards, and 2 touchdowns last week. Just insane. So I will say, for those who like to dabble in the sweet art of DFS this week, I think that like the Rams are playing Baltimore, who we just saw Cincinnati tear up. It's going to be the chalkiest of chalk this week with those Rams wide receivers. It's going to be fun.
That's why you should go Van Jefferson instead of Odell or Cup.
Yeah, I think that might be the play. The problem is like if you're
trying to what your style is, they're trying to get Cup over 2,000 yards though.
They're gonna get.
Oh Cup. They're gonna feed the hell out of him. That's true. They got the record.
So deal. You know what? Let's save the playoff rules for next week or for next show, because I want to talk to you a little bit, just because like the way the show is going. I want to talk to you a little bit about where players were drafted, what round they were drafted in, and just take a little bit of how did they finish, right? So this is not something I share with you guys, so it's going to be interesting. But round 1 players, like the first round, it was like Christian McCaffrey was a 101. I would argue he was probably like he was still the right play, right? He was still the right process. Like you're still going to choose. Like next year, you're not going to choose CMC because of the injuries. There's another year in his body. But this year, looking back, was it the right process to take CMC at 1? And really, it was like a robust RB type situation, right? It was CMC, it was Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott. Then you got Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce, JT, who, I mean, I swear he was going like the second round. Maybe it was you and I, Brandon.
It was
pushing him up.
Yeah, we pushed him up to the end of the first.
Yeah,
we pushed him up. We pushed him up right next to Antonio Gibson. That was the choice, JT or Antonio Gibson for us.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. And then it went Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Stephon Diggs. So when you look at how things actually came out, like Aaron Jones, for example, he finished as the RB9. JT is currently the RB1. Austin Eckler is the RB2. Joe Mixon, who was a round 2 pick, is the RB3. Najee, who's a second round pick, also RB4. Zeke was 6. James Conner. To me, the names here: Leonard Fournette is the RB5, James Conner is the RB7, and then our boy Cordero Patterson. My goodness,
I know, wild, 3 of them.
So the question becomes, like, it's pretty wild. We talked about the injuries. Next year, do you see it being a robust RB type draft like it was this year, or do you think it's going to be more so like the hero RB, where you get like your 1 or 2 RBs early, and then you just pretty much hammer wide receiver?
I think Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
My teams where I've done the best, and this is where the dichotomy between dynasty and redraft comes into play. So like my redraft teams where I've done the best are ones where I was a big Eckler guy, so I was extremely happy to get him. Brandon, you and I had this conversation a lot in the offseason.
Oh, he crushed me.
You thought I was out of my mind. I had him as
totally. I didn't think he would
play.
make the season. I didn't think he'd make the season.
Yeah. So the teams that I did best, I went RB early on the back end of the first round. So I ended up with Eckler, and then I went 2 to 3 wide receivers after that, and then kind of filled in running backs behind him. So those teams ended up with like Damian Harris as an RB2, and then you kind of and you run back in behind him, and that's ended up to be the better play. It's not a zero. I think zero RB is asinine, and it relies a lot on injury, and it relies a lot on luck. But I think heavy RB stud to anchor you, and then three rounds of wide receiver behind him. If a Kelsey or an Andrews would fall to you in the early part of the second, I'd be fine with that too. So what I'll say is 3 pass catchers in 2, 3, 4, and then come back around, get your second RB in 5 and 6.
So you're pretty much punting your second RB. That's pretty much what you're doing. Is you'd rather have. It just seems like to me, because like the teams that I have 3 strong wide receivers in, they carried much further than the ones that I went heavy RB in. For some reason, I think it was just more consistency. It was easier to predict for weekly results because a lot of RBs are game script dependent, and it's just what it is. But that's something I'm going to go into next year thinking about more, is that I don't have to force that second RB. Like I don't have to. Like somebody will reveal themselves throughout the season. Like that they will reveal them. Like exactly, man. Like Cordell Patterson. Who would have thought that? Like that. Nobody thought that. Like it's pretty wild to even think about. 30-year-old wide receiver is the RB8. That's pretty. I think wild.
I think, I mean, nobody could have predicted that, right? But I think what we need to really start to embrace more and more, especially for those of you who like to dabble in best balls, where I mean, for redraft leagues, you might be in 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Like most people are not in a million redraft leagues, but they do like to dabble in the art of the best ball. So. I guess my question. I know Brandon, you did best ball because you and I were chatting a lot about it. Do you do best balls as well, Mike?
I have the only best ball I have this year is my Scott Fishbowl satellite qualifier. So,
okay.
Yeah,
we got to change that.
I've done a handful. I'm actually rethinking how I'm going to proceed this offseason. I'm paring down the number of leagues that I'm in, and I'm going to do a lot more best ball. Just to get more familiar with these guys earlier, and then I'll probably do a handful more redraft leagues than I did last year.
Good news, Mike. I don't know. Brandon wasn't quite as degenerate, but I expect 2022 is going to be different. I typically start my best ball leagues in February, so pretty much right after Super Bowl is when we get going. So, look, there are best ball league contests already on Underdog, where it's rookies and sophomores already that are up for 2022. So I'm not quite that bold, but come February, I'm going to be drafting for sure. I think what's also pretty interesting here is that when you look at the top 12 running backs and you compare it to, say, the top 12 wide receivers, just in terms of points per game, PPR points per game. Okay, so JT, I mean, he smashed everywhere, right, with 340 points. And then Cooper Kupp, my God, in PPR,
Jesus,
391 points, right? So those guys are kind of out of control. But both were quite top heavy, right? Like, so you got Austin Eckler, 294 points, Joe Mixon's 272 points, and then it's kind of a steady decline. But like Cooper Kupp, 390, Devontae Adams, 300, Justin Jefferson, 296. You go down to the RB12, which, ladies and gentlemen, the wide receiver 12 is Hunter Mofucking Renfro on the season. That's not what expected, my God. But 221 points. Compare that to Alvin Kamara at 195 points. I think, it's nothing really scientific about it, but honestly, just visually, if you just go look at it and you look at how it scales down, there is a massive drop off in the mid round 2 for RBs. Whereas, like, you go down to the wide receiver 24, which is Christian Kirk, he still had 187 points. Compare that to Darrell Williams with 162 points with the RB 24. So
Wow.
As much as we talk about the hero RB strategy, right? I still worry that there's so many wide receivers, especially like we've talked about this before, the way the game is changing, right? Guys like Elijah Moore are starting to come on where they're like the quick, twitchy wide receivers that are going to gobble up 8, 9, 10, 11 receptions in a game and just absolutely skyrocket your PPR points. So, in some of my leagues this year for my Superflex leagues, I typically would kind of wait on quarterback. But my strategy this year was to really pay up for your quarterbacks. And in some cases it worked out when the guys stayed healthy, but get my quarterbacks, get my running backs, but then I forgot the guys like the Cole Beasleys of the world, that are like way down there, and they're just PPR machines. Like they just gobble up and they have a pretty good floor. So, I mean, I guess there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but I still believe that to get those top heavy running backs, it's going to be worth it next year. And if guys like Christian McCaffrey are going to be falling to the second round, or I bet you, Mike and Brandon, next year you're going to be able to get Christian McCaffrey late second round. Sometimes he's going to fall.
No way. I don't see that.
You don't see that? I think people are going to be gun shy, man.
I understand people be gun shy. I think people be gun shy, but I just don't see him falling that deep.
Here's how it'll happen. Here's how I think it'll happen is when the first ADPs open up in mid-July, he's going to be low. Because people are so gun shy. Then what you'll see happen is the industry will be like, oh my God, Christian McCaffrey, you're way too low. You're way too low on him. Look at what his ceiling is, 18.5 PPR points per game, blah, 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 blah. Here's his ceiling. And
look
then
at the numbers.
So by the time you end up in September, he'll be at the 1-2 turn. So it all depends on when you.
He will be at the turn. I think that's right where he's going to be.
Yeah,
I think that's what's going to happen. I think that the sharp people that are picking early will be like, listen, he's volatile. And when you're looking at that, you can't afford to miss in your top 2 picks. You really just can't. It's going to sink your whole season. Yeah. And they're going to be gun shy because he's burned them the last 2 years.
Well, so this is an Alan Seslowski edict, okay? He says, you can't win your draft in round 1, but you can certainly lose your draft in round 1. And I do believe that. But the problem becomes, I mean, just in general, is that like if you're a Bob Harris guy, you try to be injury agnostic, right? Understanding that oftentimes if you get injured in the past, you're more likely to get injured in the future. But like Najee Harris could miss the season next year just as easily as Cam Akers, just as easily as Alvin Kamara, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So injury agnostic point of view, I think that Christian McCaffrey should, like this is just all things being equal, should be a top 3 pick next year. I think, right? He's not going to be for a lot of the reasons we outlined here, but who are going to be the top 5 guys? Like who are the ones that are going to jump out at you? Do you think it's going to be like a super wide receiver heavy? There's no way Travis Kelce goes round 1 this year.
No, Kelce will not go in round 1. I think JT's 1, Justin Jefferson, and like those kind of guys. I think Justin Jefferson is going to hop way up into the top 5. I think people, especially, just depends on what happens with Kirk Cousins. Is he going to leave? Like, isn't his contract close to being up?
Yeah, I think they got an out this year.
They got an out. So if that out if they don't move Kirk, I could see something possibly happening where if there is, I think people will see that 3rd-year jump for JJ. Everybody talks about, and we could see the full JJ.
Did Zimmer actually say that testing positive was the first positive thing that Kirk's done all season? I don't know if that was a meme or if that was an actual quote, but
that's rough, dude.
Brandon,
I don't think they're happy.
If we haven't seen the real Justin Jefferson yet, Justin Jefferson is the wide receiver 3 on the season. Like,
I understand.
What more does that have to do?
He'll be Cup. Like, he can be what Cup is doing this year. Like, he can be that kind of guy, especially because Adam Thielen is older every year. Like, he just got shut down for ankle surgery. So how long is he going to be? Is he going to be 100% right off the bat? Like, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I think JT is a big one. But where's Henry go? Like that, where does Henry go? Like
he's gonna I think based on injury, he can come back this year for playoffs as well, can he? Like there's a chance.
Yeah. I thought there was a chance. They talked about that.
So then in theory for next year he's gonna be a full go, right? I mean, I would say he's gonna be a top 3 pick.
Okay, so I would say it's gonna be JT Henry. It's gonna be Najee. Najee's another one.
I think Eckler's going to have Najee.
in redraft, Eckler will be a top 5. Yeah, I mean,
So really, it's going to be RB heavy, and then you're going to start probably middle of round. So similar to how it went.
Joe
this year.
Mixon. Where does Joe Mixon go? I bet he gets screwed again. I bet he goes towards the end of the first. Like,
Yeah,
I bet
he's going to go end of the
like
first. Yeah, he's going to go up.
I mean, that's an offense I'm going to be heavily invested in is the Bengals next season and probably in 2023 as well. This Burrow train is just picking up steam, and I think Mike and I have been talking offline about him. Like by the way, there is receipts here. This is not hyperbolic, but Michael called 500 yards for Burrow last week on my text. And I immediately laughed at it. I was like, yeah, he's going to have a good game. I don't know about 500, but the guy.
I said 503 TDs. I'll try to do better.
You put 503 TDs. I have the receipts, man. It's insane to even talk about because I didn't want to bring it up because people would be like, no way. But like, yeah, he was all about Joe Burrow last week.
One of my dynasty leagues where I was playing to get into the championship, I had Joe Burrow, and I was so happy. I was so excited. I was first in points for pretty much the entire season this year. And then my opponent, of course, had T. Higgins and AJ Brown. And it's just like, no. So it's just like the heartbreak of heartbreak.
I love it. Look, dude, how about AJ Brown? Talk about that for a second. Like, I mean, talk about so the Swift situation this week, a lot of people are dealing with that. I'm dealing with that. The way I'm looking at it as if they're allowing Swift to come play, that means he is 100%. Like they tried to hold this guy out, but it sounds like the coach, what he was saying is that Swift has been really adamant about coming back and playing, and they can't wait to unleash Swift. That's what he said. And he said that he's going to cut him loose and he's going to play him like a normal day. So that is kind of like the same thing with AJ Brown as the kind of situation that he came from. Like, I have a feeling that Swift is going to put up a great game.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I mean, the different situation is that Tennessee is fighting for their playoff life, right? Whereas Detroit is far out. Like,
so why play him?
Right? So, unless he's 100% healthy, like that would be the only thing, right? I mean,
he wants to play. I think that's what it is. I think the player is wanting to play.
If the medical staff says he can play and he looks, I don't care. I don't care. The coaching staff needs to show character, right? Like, either you're 100% hurt or 100% healthy, and we're going to give you a full workload, or you're not playing. That's it. We're going to sit you for the last.
That's why I'm playing. That's the way I'm playing it. If he's playing, that means they are all in on it. Like, let it go. Like, say it. All right.
So, question.
What about you, Mike? What about you, Mike?
Yeah. So this was, and I wanted to talk about this. I was waiting for my in. So, I have a lot of big opinions on the Detroit Lions. So typically what Mike,
you see. You have a big opinion on something? That's shocking to me.
It's shocking. I know.
You guys should see this group chat we have. He has lots of opinions.
Yeah. So typically you look at people that are elevating into a new position, and in my real life, I work in an executive position. So we move people up levels all the time. What you see in that is you see that it takes people a year to learn how to do their job when they get a promotion, when they move up. So Dan Campbell filled in as an interim head coach for the Dolphins for 6 games. Now, 10 games into being a head coach for the Detroit Lions, he looks at Anthony Lynn and says, you know what, dude? You're a fucking moron. You can't call a play. I'm taking over play calling duties. So as of week 10, Dan Campbell's calling the plays. He's now a year into being a head coach when you take the interim and the full-time, and he's taken over play calling. So you've seen, that's where you saw the momentum switch. Dan Campbell has always been a player's coach. Guys love to play for him, the biting the kneecaps thing, all that kind of shit. But now he's figured out how to actually be a head coach, to be a leader, to make the adjustments, to know when to say, you know what, you're not doing it, I'm doing it, and this is how we're doing it. Like, I have full confidence in the Detroit Lions moving in. In this week, if he's saying Swift is good to go, I'm putting him in my lineup. Like, I don't care St. Brown. I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, Craig Reynolds, what, you're going to give Craig Reynolds touches over Swift? I don't think so. I'm hard pressed to see that happening. And I'm going to go so far as to say that I think Dan Campbell is a solid coach of the year candidate for next year. And the Detroit Lions are going to be in contention for the NFC North. You look at Green Bay is rebuilt. Green Bay is going to be rebuilding. Rodgers is gone, and he's fucking taking Devontae Adams with him. So what? You're going to ride Amari Rodgers and Jordan Love to NFC North title? Get the fuck out of here. Matt Nagy is going down in flames, and I don't know what the hell's going on in Minnesota. Kirk Cousins isn't going to be there. They got a solid offense, but their defense is trash. So I don't think there's nothing that says that. Other than the fact that I'm crazy, there's nothing that says that what I'm saying is crazy. Like I could see it. I could fully see this happening next year.
Dude, your crystal ball has
so
been right a lot more than wrong with me, especially when it's outlandish. Like he literally tells me like the things that he texts me and then that they come true. Like if I told you 10 of them, you just go bullshit. Like no way. But it's like people pay attention, man. Just pay attention.
There's a reason we had to drag this guy into the pod to get the good news out to the viewers. So Bally's asking, so what are your thoughts? Are you concerned about Amon-Ra with DeAndre Swift back? Like, is he going to be able to get the target share that's making him relevant, frankly? Brandon?
I don't think he's going to get like 14, 12 targets or anything like that. I think he'll get 8. I think he'll get 6.
Which is still respectable.
That's still great. That's still startable. That's still flex worthy. He can still score. You never know. But like, they're going against Seattle. Seattle's been not great. Like Seattle is spinning like they are especially with what I just heard with Russell Wilson's presser. Russell Wilson, unprompted, slipped in there that this could be his last game in Seattle. So I'm just, if I was a player and I heard him say that, yeah, I would not be a happy guy. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think next year is going to be one of the wildest off seasons we've ever seen. I think with the quarterback talent that's going to be available and moving around, teams will instantly be different if they sign a Watson, a Rod, like even I just don't even. I'm excited about it. Like
Cousins,
this is going to be
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is totally good enough. Yeah,
Matt Ryan. Yeah.
Jimmy G. Where's he going?
Jimmy G. That's another one. Like he can play decent. He's not a bad quarterback. Like I'm excited about this summer, man. It's going to be wild. Dynasty teams are going to have value that just jump out of nowhere because of all this movement.
Well, here's the thing: we gotta put our brains together and maybe come up with like our top dynasty targets over the next couple weeks before all this news starts going down. So since we were just talking about quarterbacks, it's gonna be my last question before we close it out for the show.
Sure.
For one, what round you guys are drafting? It's a 1 quarterback league. What round are you comfortable drafting your first quarterback in?
10.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
God, man, it all depends on build. Like last year, this last year, I loved the grabbing Stafford in the 11th. That was such a clutch play. And if you did that and you stacked Cup and waited on Stafford, like you had probably the best team in the league because you were able to just suck up value everywhere else. So I'm cool with punting, like in one quarterback. I'm cool with punting quarterback till round 9 through 11.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts was what, 96 overall last year.
Exactly.
Burrow's 107. Kirk was 150. Jameis was.
Burrow's going to be a top 5 quarterback next year.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, like, if you go on those guys, you need to. And I don't like to do this, but I force myself to do it. If you go late on one of those speculative guys, you got to come back around with an upside guy behind him. Yeah. So what I did a lot was I went like Hurts in 10 and then backed him up with like Fields in 12, thinking that one of the two would work out. Now, obviously it worked out that Hurts was the man. I didn't need Fields, but like, if you're going to go, there could be scenarios where you're like Tom, maybe not Tom Brady, cause he went a little earlier, but like you could have Matt Stafford backed up with a Big Ben and one of those guys will hit. So you got to what Brandon said, it's all about your build.
Yep.
Let's just reflect on this real quick. So this year, Mahomes and Josh Allen went in round 3. Kyler went in round 4. Lamar went in round 5. Dak, Russ, Aaron Rodgers went in round 6. Herbert and Tom Brady round 7. Stafford went in round 8. Jalen Hurts round 9. Tannehill round 9. Those are your top 12 quarterbacks drafted last year.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. I mean, shoot, like if you're rolling,
If you would have
with
just got
those
Tom
guys-
Brady, like everybody that had that Tampa Bay stack
Hmm.
was a tough team for, a while until this end of the stretch here, like this last bit of a stretch. But is Evans going to play this week?
it's still questionable. He
was-
was activated off the COVID list, but
Yeah.
I
got
hope
the
he
hand-
doesn't
it's
play.
uncertain.
I hope he doesn't play, man.
I
really
they could be
do.
down. They could be down Leonard. Well, they're down Leonard Fournette. They're going to be down
Godwin.
Mike Evans, Antonio Brown. Like,
Come
my
on.
God. But hey,
Dude.
guess what, guys? They play the Jets this week. I think they're going to be just fine.
That's
They're
what
gonna
I'm
be just
saying.
fine.
Like, dude, I'm so nervous. Like, I'm literally debating on what do I do with Rojo? Because I got these 4 running backs, man. They all have good matchups and they're good players, and I'm nervous. I got Sony, Swift, Mixon, and Rojo, and I need 3.
Yeah.
Who you
Rojo, Swift,
sitting?
and
Like,
Mixon.
who
Yeah,
you
that's
sitting?
What was the first one?
Mixon,
So, yes.
Swift,
Yes.
Sony, and
I'm
Rojo.
sitting Sony, man. I'm sitting Sony.
Really?
I'm sitting Sony Michelle.
That's the one I'm
not
like
get-
locked in
Yeah.
on.
See, going up against Baltimore, how do you beat Baltimore, guys? You beat them in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
gonna
But
be-
like, look
The only
what
thing is if the
Mixon
game
did.
script goes. Yeah, but
I know.
Telling me
Hey,
you're gonna bench one of
nobody
those 3
nobody
studs.
predicted that.
No.
Nobody.
Yeah,
predicted
no,
that.
you're not going to do that. Like, you got to go with your studs at that point. I mean, the only question mark would be DeAndre Swift, and we just talked about DeAndre Swift. So don't overthink.
So
it.
it's-
That's as far
So
as I'm concerned.
Mixon.
Okay.
So you're going Mixon, Swift, Rojo.
Rojo. Yeah, I mean Rojo against the Jets. Are you kidding me? When we just talked about how they don't have any wide receivers on the team, absolutely. Look, watch it be a Keyshawn Vaugn game. Which
That's what I worry
Isn't that
about.
hilarious?
I'm terrified about it, man. Like,
He had that
at least
first
I know
touchdown
Sony
last
is the
week.
guy.
Bruce
Huh?
Arians is out there talking up Keyshawn, how good he looks.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
Bruce
I-
Arians
okay, hey.
drafted that guy.
Hey, literally, dynasty guys. Hey, if you're in the playoffs and you're still on the wire, go pick up Keyshawn Vaughn. So there is no running back besides Keyshawn Vaughn that's locked into a contract with the Tampa Bay past this year. So
Rojo's
people
not
need
as
to
interesting.
just slide them in. Just slide them in and pick up Vaughn. It takes nothing, and it could be a high upside value play next fall that might come in. And the way Bruce is talking about this guy, I mean, he did have talent coming out of Vanderbilt. Like, I mean, he has good size. He's got good hands. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just was nervous about playing with Tom Brady like his rookie year, and he couldn't figure. Like, he was freaking out. Like, but like, I don't know. Like, he hates Rojo. That's why I'm nervous about it. Like,
Dude, Rojo
Bruce
can't
Arians-
even catch COVID. He's not catching anything out of that backfield.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm nervous. Like, that's why I'm saying
All
Sony. He's 100% a locked in RB1. Like.
Our last question for the day, guys. Are you starting Keyshawn Vaughn over Jared Patterson or Tony Pollard?
Not
Definitely
Pollard.
over-
Interesting.
Definitely over Patterson, probably not over Pollard.
Pollard is mine. I'd go Pollard, Vaughn, Patterson.
Yeah.
And they're the only reason Vaughn could actually I think Rojo and Vaughn could have good games. Like, it could be just both of them
here's the
just
thing.
go
Remember,
bananas.
so we were talking about this just last week. I think it was last week, right? We were talking about how I love Vaughn in the draft process, and how I drafted him over Justin Jefferson. Thanks, Shane. The thing about Keyshawn Vaughn, though, we have to remember is that the reason I was drafting him so high is at the time Leonard Fournette wasn't on the team. It was Rojo, who sucks, and Keyshawn Vaughn. And I was like, look, Keyshawn Vaughn is a much better running back than Ronald Jones. So I don't know. Time will
Also,
tell.
another pickup, sneaky pickup for before the season ends. Go get Gabe Davis if somebody cut him when he went on COVID. Go pick him up, throw him on your dynasty roster. That's a guy I think is going to explode next year in his 3rd year. I can't wait to talk about him this summer and hype him up, because like, this guy has the ability and the connection with Allen to do something pretty cool next year.
It's gonna be exciting.
I'm starting him in championship week. Let's go.
Let's go. So let's end it there, boys. So of course, where do the good people find you, Brandon?
Brandon D. Adam 19 on Twitter. Hit me up. Call Call me out. I know. I'm sorry about Rondell. It's just what it is. Hey, man, I'm a dynasty guy. I get excited about buying rookies. I'm buying still. I'm holding. I think he's going to be a very good player in the next couple of years. Go ahead,
Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Better NFL player than fantasy player. But
Yeah.
you can find me on Twitter at Mike_Dickens.
As of now.
Yes,
Forever.
Mike loves to talk shit. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. If you like what you were listening to and you lasted to the end, please like and subscribe. Please tell your friends. Maybe don't tell your friends, but tell your friends. Help us out here, guys.
Dude,
we got lots
tell
more.
your friends.
2022. We're just getting started, baby. So for Brandon, for Mike, I'm Flex Shane, and we are the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody.